chapter 9 about accounts receivable. So you have to know about especially how to evaluate the account receivable net realizable value. So, and the thing is, you also need to know how to estimate the bad debts. Okay, that's very really important. Now, starting from today, we're moving to the part. I think we can finish pretty fast about notes receivable. Okay, and actually, I don't know, depends on the different countries, the economic behavior. In Taiwan, last time I've been showing you that the financial report for the several listing company, actually comparing to accounts receivable, and especially for the e-commerce, and it is really real for the notes receivable anymore. People make some traditional company, they may still get the transaction done by any notes, but most of the cases, the business will do both either by the electronic wiring the money or by the accounts, the credit sales. Now it's really to see the notes anymore. But however, since maybe there are some countries still doing that, and we still need to complete a notes receivable, or the other side is notes payable. We will not get a break, we'll just move directly from here. Okay, so we're talking about the notes receivable. Normally, we will say that about a check. Okay, actually, when you are saying notes, it covers not the check, but also something like commercial paper. Okay, so will be all included for the notes. Okay, so that's why it's plural, not singular. You cannot say note receivable. You should put on notes. 这是复数啊，因为它其实 notes 的有可能是商业本票啊、票据啊都算，所以它是一个复数。注意啊，你不能写一个 just note receivable. It should be notes. Okay. All right. So it's a promissory note. Okay. I promised I will pay you, or you promised you will pay me in a written promise. So normally that's how it looks like in the Western style. But in Taiwan we also have a Chinese check. Okay. The thing is, something important is you need to disclose the amount and especially the due date. This is the date for today, and 90 days after the issue date, when is the day supposed to pay the full money? And I'm circling here is the reason why in Chinese or in Taiwan we use the currency with the even number. We don't have the digit decimal. Okay, 我们没有小数点。But I don't know about in Russia. Your currency has any decimal number? For example, $10.20, or you only have $10.
We have rubles and kopeyka. The same as
You have a cents or
cents. Yeah,
You
cents, but another.
Okay, with the coin. And how about something also, right? In the United States too. So confusing if the first time you go to the United States and you need to know what the quarter looks like, dime, and the cents, something like that. So anyway, so when people is writing the check, they should know how to write. For example, and I just purchased something $10.20. So the check, you will say $10 with the, the letter, $10.20. Then we something like this. Okay, so this is the way when we're writing check in the United States. So you should know for the decimal number， 就是在美国写的时候，他们不会是就我们台湾是就是整元的1块钱2块钱。它如果是20 cent 的话，就20 cent 意思是20%，所以我们可以这样子。If that's an even number, then you just cross. This means $10. You can write $10 even. $10 even. Or another way is $10 and nothing happened here. Okay, just let you know how to write the check. Okay. All right. So that's something. But actually, normally, our regular check, we will not just pay the transaction. But if you are doing the business, of course, you need to indicate the interest rate. Normally, that's based on the annual rate. Okay. So then we'll see in Chinese, Taiwan's check, something you should pay attention, because in Taiwan the check can be endorsed. If you endorse on the back, then whoever get a check from the floor, they can deposit to their own account. No matter if the pay is this guy and he endorsed his name on the back, if that's the case, whoever Kevin took the check, he didn't even know this one. Okay, but just accidentally he got a check and he can deposit to his own bank account. So something you need to avoid things happen. The smart way is you make double line on the left upper left. So these two lines so important. If you some blank check doesn't come with the line, so people will use whatever pen, not a pencil, draw double parallel lines. Then whoever took the check, even though with the endorsement, but with the two lines, they cannot deposit to their own account. So that makes the difference. Or another way is they go to the shop, make a stamp, saying that it is prohibited to transfer to whoever. So if the check is coming with these stamps and with the characters, then no one can steal the check. That's the difference in Taiwan's check. 看得懂吗？台湾的支票跟你们注意一下哈，因为你们或许会在台湾做生意。如果你要在开公司支票的时候，如果你没有这个上面的2个平行线的支票的时候，你虽然有背书，因为如果要背书哈，谁拿走就谁就可以自己去存啊，即便你不是那个被受支票支付的人，但是呢，如果上面画了2条线的话，他就不可以随便存到他自己的账户哈。那或者另外一个方法就是去盖一个禁止背书转让的话，他也不可以存到自己的账户，所以这是一个很注意的小心，不然你的支票一不小心被人家拿走了，因为你又不小心什么时候一开拿到支票去 endorse 的，那这个是 the better way is even in the Western check, the better way is never endorse when you receive check right away. You better do that when it is necessary. You endorse, okay? So 有需要的时候才去背书。If you endorse, then it's transferable to anyone else. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, and this is the slip. You have to save that. So, and whenever the check, it always coming with the check number, and that's very important. If sometime you are just so carelessly and write something wrong, then you cannot just tear it away. You just have to say void. You cannot tear get the whole piece of the check, just throw away. You have to keep always a secret number here. That's the thing, it's very important for the internal control. Okay, if you leave the number blank, then people will think what happened. Okay, so it's very important. No matter what reason you want to, just make the check void, then you still have to keep the number slip here. Okay, that's really important. 所以不管怎么样原因，如果这张支票作废的话，你一定还是要留它的存根的流水号码，好，不能够让它不见。Okay, then. So when you are saying the check, you always say that even though normally for check, we will issue like 1 month, 3 months, 6 months for short term, okay? But for normally for 1 month, the interest rate is really cannot feel anything. But that's why when you are issuing check, normally we will extend to 3 months above, longer than 3 months, okay? So if that's the thing, you need to know the due date, or you may call that maturity date, and how much is the interest will be computed. Okay, so in that case, we need to know how to calculate. You times with the principal and with the annual interest rate and with the fraction of the year. So what's the fraction of the year? Normally we count it by 360 days. You will say, why? The whole year there are 365 days, but since you are using 365 days, normally will make the number is very complicated. So it's in accounting, it's allowable we use 360, then divided by the number of days you issued. Okay, so that's why, or you may say that 3 months, then you can use 3 divided out by 12, then that is also okay. So this is a formula you have to remember in order to compute the interest. 算利息是非常的重要 ，OK？ So the whole principal， 注意这个字啊，本金就叫 principal，OK？Principal P-A-L，you cannot confuse with principal P-L-E，there are two different the words，OK？ 如果是 P-L-E， 那是原则 ，OK？ 那这个 principal 是本金，或者是某家公司的老板也是 principal，OK？ 他校长也可以叫 principal， 那都是 P-A-L 啊，那 P-L-E 都makes these two words tangle together. Okay, so that's how we calculate the interest. Okay, so here are the several examples. Okay, normally, just like accounts receivable, we prefer actually for accounts receivable is very strict to require for each individual customer. You need to set up individual account. So that's why when you have A person, B customer, C customer, so whenever you are using AR, you need to dash A, dash B, and dash C. So later on, you combine all the customer together to become one single accounts receivable. And here for notes receivable, actually the book say you may not actually. In practice, you still have to set up individual account for notes receivable. So here's the example. This company received 1,090 days, 12%. If it's not indicate anything, we normally will assume it's annual interest, unless it's indicated it's either monthly interest or semi-annual interest, and then otherwise we will assume it's an annual interest. Okay, so in that case, if it's 1,000, so you have NR. Okay, then you have to create sales. That's very easy, and you have to disclose the interest rate under the entry. Okay, this one is very easy. Then here's I gave you an extra example. Normally, people are doing the transaction. They will in the beginning say, okay, we can take the notes from the company. Normally, we always set up the credit sale because we don't like to enforce our customer to issue the check and pay me besides the principal, also the interest. Okay, normally we create credit sales. So in that case, credit sales depends on the customer's credit. normally maybe 10 days, maybe longer days, we allow grant the tenant to let them pay the money back. So that's why in the beginning, normally it should be debit AR, credit sales. That's for the credit terms, okay? Later on, depends on the situation. So if the customer, they really, after the 10 days due, they still cannot pay the money back. In that time, we will negotiate. They will negotiate with the seller, say that, how about I pay you in notes? Then instead of giving more time, maybe 3 months or something. If you really care this customer, if you really think that whatever the reason is acceptable, then you may replace the AR. That's why you have the debit AR, you write it off to credit. Then you have the new AR, NR here. Okay, not like example here in the beginning, you use a NR and have the sales. Okay, that's the normal way is in the beginning, we will give the customer several granted days in order to pay the money. Later on, if something not working out, then we take the notes. Okay, so that's the way in practice. Okay, so but if what and this is we will just say the example. It made more sense. So here is the company agreed to accept 232 in cash, along with 660-day 50% notes from the company to settle her total bill is 832 past due account, which means originally AR is $832 that's on the account, which means the transaction, the sales, the real total amount is 832 days. But since the due date, your customer saying that I only can afford 232 by today. Well, what about I write you a check, a note, okay, for the balance. So that's why the company, the seller, received the cash for $232 and the other balance using the NR. So we will write off the whole AR here. So which means starting from October 5th, okay, then the notes receivable will come, not just only the principal, but also the interest, okay? So that makes sense, okay? I offer you another 3 months, then you have to pay me not just the something, but also the interest. So this, who cannot understand the entry here? 这个分录看得懂吗？ This 这边看得懂吗 ？OK， so 那个那个什么新品还是什么？对不起，是叫什么名字？所以这边就是说，你先收的本来是应收账款嘛，那你现在只收到一部分现金，他剩下说要写支票给你，所以你们应该看得懂现在的分的故事。You have to read the story now, whenever you are seeing the entry, OK？ 所以这边当你有个 AR 变成到借变贷的意思说，它就被完全冲销了嘛。那剩下存在的在你的资产里面，就只剩下你收到的现金和你应该收到的票据。OK， so this is the way you should know, not just from here to here. If I'm just give you the entry, you should know the story. I don't even need to give you story. The transaction you should know from here right away. So then trace further. You should know whenever the transaction incurred. Definitely there's debit, AR, A32, and credit what? Sales, right? That's the first day when you make the transaction, do the business, okay? Later on, when due date, they cannot afford the whole money, then you have to write off the whole amount. Then using the cash and the notes receivable instead, okay? So that's if something you just cannot work out, then how are you going to deal with? So starting from here, you have a new relationship between the creditor and the debtor, okay? Not just the credit itself, but also we say a written promissory, okay, check. Okay, here is, it's always risky when you are receiving the check because certain percentage chances the check can be default, okay, which means they will not pay the check and it's a default check, okay, and when it's due and the actual people disappear, it's happened for the past, I will say, at least 20 or 30 years ago. If in nowadays, if you are a listing company, then you default your check, your promissory note, you know what's gonna happen? Very serious, okay. I will say in Taiwan, if it's 40 years ago, if you default a check, okay, maybe you will be called by the court. And if they give you grant you a certain period, if you still cannot pay the money, then the happening is you will be put in jail. So at that time, so many people will be packed in the jail. So they don't have enough room because of the check reason, okay? So that's why later on then it happens because when they default the check, the owner of the company are the ones who put in the jail. And during the days, so many people, the business people, they put their wife's name become the owner of the company in order to avoid any penalty. So you will see lots of women with a baby. That's a really poor story, it's tragedy then in the jail. So later on they changed the law. So it will not, if it happened, will not put in the jail. Okay? So, but now it's changed. The new law is if the listing company default the check, the note, then they would be forced to step out of the market, delist. Okay? So that's something really important. So your credit is really important for doing business. You will say, well, I just don't have money. I just cannot pay. Okay, if you're a listing company, there are so many investors are considering to buy the stock from your company. If you default your check, this is really serious problem. Means that you have a financial problem, really serious problem to face. So you cannot cheat the investors. Okay, so that's why if you are a listing company and you default the check, then you will be required to get out of the market. Okay, so that's very important. So if we use the word honor, which means that the people pay back the full money for the check. So that's very, very easy, but don't forget, as long as they are notes, they always have the issue, not just the principal, but also the interest. Okay, so here's a case that a company pays the check on the due date, and the seller received the money. They receive not just the principal, but also the interest. Okay, so they write off the NR from debit to credit. Okay, they write off from the NR from debit to credit, plus they have interest we call revenue. Interest revenue, okay? We will not say interest income, most of the time we prefer to use revenue, okay? Okay, so 600, then how did this one get the $15 calculation? Because the principal is 600 and the annual interest is 15%, and the borrowing time is 60 days. So after the calculation, it's coming out for $15. So total together, from the right side, the credit side, the whole money received is cash, $615. Okay, so that's when it's honored, good, the payment. So we say that. So we have a practice here. Everyone, please I'm going to receive the paper for the whole chapter. So last week, you still bring the paper with you? Always keep that with you. Okay, chapter 9, in-class practice. And or if not, the space is not enough, you probably need to get another paper. We have to do several documenting practice for the session here. And later on, after the whole chapter, I will receive whatever you have done in class. Okay. 你们上礼拜的那个练习的纸张拿出来 ，OK， 我们继续做练习。如果不够纸再另外加。Okay, get ready? 上课的时候 I think for accounting you just have to do the practice again and again and again. That's the only way. Okay. 有没有接到纸啊？你有纸张吗？你上次来不是有上课吗？那张纸到哪里去了？你们上课来什么都不带。Whoever, Lisa, you have paper brought to her? Blank paper? Oh yeah, she got one. Everyone, look at here. Okay, we need to do the entries for the 3 days transaction. Okay, the first one is the company, November 1st. For notes, you have to watch out the dates because you need to calculate the interest. Okay, so November 1. Accepted 5,180 day, 6% notes dated on November 1st. So starting from November 1st, the interest will start. Okay, from Melosa Ellen in granting a 10 extension for her past due account receivable. So we have a granting account extension, which means the transaction supposedly due on November 1st. But actually, the buyer cannot pay off the whole money. So instead, she or whoever wrote a check. Okay, so we have to replace the AR with NR. How are you going to do the first one?
AR.
Yes, we have new relationship I just mentioned. When the due date for AR, the buyer cannot pay off the money. So instead, okay, the buyer just write up a note with the full amount of 5,000 and also indicate the interest condition. So how are you going to do this one? I think we just mentioned from the prior first one. So this is the one with the due date past due, then you have new relationship. How are you going to do that? So referring to here, you should know from the bottom here, the third one, how are you going to do something similar like here? Okay, so you have the question here for $5,000， 懂吗？11月1号原本的交易，人家给的信用奖，他没有办法还 ，OK， 那他就写了一张支票，继续剩下的6个月，你付，还需要付款。So what's the first one? Okay, so after you have done first one, go to second one. So moving from November 1st, going to the end of December 31, which means it's getting through 2 months, okay? So when the end of the financial reporting day, you always need to do what? Adjust the entry if it's necessary, okay? So December 31, adjust the year-end account for the accrued. Accrued means something you have to payable or receivable. We say that accrued. Accrued 的英文、中文就叫应计，可能是应收，可能是应付 ，OK？ 记得这个应收利息 earn on the Allen note，OK？ So you just think for 180 days, supposedly the check should be due on November, December, January, February, March, May, June, okay? Then, but actually that's the same happened on the second year, okay, which means we'll pass the December 31. So, but for December 31, we need to prepare the financial reporting, including balance sheet, income statement, right? In that case, we need to do some adjusting in order to complete all the revenue, all the expenses, okay? So the revenue should include some accrued interest. What is accrued interest? Actually, the interest revenue has been incurred because I have already accepted, even though 6 months, but till now, I have earned 2 months interest already. Okay, so for the interest itself, supposedly I have interest receivable, debit, and also credit, interest, revenue. Okay, so this is the one, but since you need to calculate based on the principal $5,000, how much interest should be for the 2 months. Okay, so you need to base on the formula to calculate the one for the second one. Okay， 好，12月30，总共经过了2个月，即便是支票到下个月的4月才要到期 ，OK， 那这样子的话，那这样子的话，它已经2个月已经发生的这个事实利息应该怎么做？我们通常讲 accrue 的意思叫应计嘛，所以你可能应该有应收利息，然后同时间发生的利息收入 ，OK？ So the end due date should be April 30. That's after 160 days, okay? So Allen honors means pay the full money, okay? Honors per note when presented for payment, okay? February has 20 days for the current year, that's normal. So you just ignore that. This just mentioned maybe sometimes every 4 years they could have 29 days. So when it indicated here, there are 28 days for February, so it's normal. You just don't need to pay attention for that. So here for 30 days, which means the end. So what should you do? Okay. I think this is a very good practice because based on last semester, we have already know the interest across the period, okay? For which amounts for the current period, which amounts for the next period, okay? So this is the one, just try to do it. I'll give you the solution, the answer, see how much you can work it, get it right.
Should I ask, in the December 31st, debit for interest receivable or credit for what?
Interest revenue. The reason for adjusting, you just need to conclude the 100% revenue, 100% of the related expenses. That's what we call matching principle, right? So interest is something you earned, people pay you, so that's what we call that is a revenue. 这边同学可以吗？有听懂吗？不要试着自己做一做哈，就做才可以会，可以跟朋友 You can discuss with your neighbors, it's okay. So here is the answer. How many of you have done this right? All right. The first one, very easy. You write off the AR, you set up a new relationship with NR. So number one, 第一个谁做对 ？Who has done right? First one. Please raise your hand. 其他人呢 ？OK 吗？第一题都做对吗？ Okay, the second one for the 2 months. First, you have to calculate based on 5,000 principal. the annual interest 6%, okay? And the fraction is 60 days out of 360 days. That's the fraction of the year, okay? So the total amount is $50. So you have something really incurred, but not yet received. So we call that receivable. So this interest receivable, another name is accrued interest. That's the same thing. If you are saying accrued interest, 应计利息也是可以的 or interest receivable, okay? So they are the same thing. So that's debit because it's receivable, so that's one of the assets. Okay, 知道吗？那个高正宇是吧？对 ，then another credit， 我又弄错是不是？Another interest revenue. Okay, so the one interest receivable, since this is adjusting entry, we have said that so many times. When you are doing the adjusting entry, definitely 100%, one goes to the balance sheet, one goes to the income statement. Okay, that's for the adjusting entry. So interest revenue goes to the asset, balance sheet asset. 应收利息是在资产负债表的资产类。And interest revenue goes to income statement. Okay? Right? Okay. Then the third one is a little bit difficult. Okay? That's about cross area. Cross. We have given this example, meaning try the example of similar thing many times. Remember when counting the salary also happen. Okay? Normally the salary will pay like every 2 weeks. Okay, every 2 weeks. If the payday is not exactly on the last day of December 31, then also the similar thing, you have to count it, okay? So here is, since this one, actually the total amount for the 160 days, then you can calculate it should be 150 days. 5,000 times 6% times 180 days out of 360 days. I'm saying the total interest revenue, okay? So it'd be 5,000 times 6% times 180 days out of 360 days. Then you will know the number 150 days, $150. But the things within the $150, $50 was counted already, recognized already in the prior period. Okay, so the rest balance of $100 that should be included for the second year. Okay, so that's why the second year we only recognize the revenue for $100 for the year 2, the second year. Okay, so we have the interest revenue here. So here is the first year is $50 for interest revenue. We have 2 interest revenue total to $150. But one goes to the year 1, one goes to the year 2. So, and then but problem is the cash receipt should include the principal, but also the total interest revenue. Okay, so since the 50 was recognized before, so the second one you have to write off the receivable, which is paid already. So you need to write off the receivable, which means your customer does not owe you any penny when the due date they pay the full money. So you need to write off the receivable first, then for the current revenue $100. So that makes the total cash 150 plus 5,000 principal. OK， 我们在这个跨那个期间的跨年的特别小心。我们之前就有很多类似的，比如说薪资什么都是这样子概念。所以呢，也就是说，一笔东西一定要在 related, it should be related within the related period. OK， 所以我们在这个时候上面的50块钱是因为上2个月已经发生在上一年，所以必须要认列50块钱的利息收入。那这一期呢的相关期间的收入只有100块钱 ，OK， 所以我们先认列100块钱利息收入之后，这50块钱本来是应收利息，因为现在要付清了，就把它清除掉，借变大， OK，所以整个的现金的收到，本金的5000加上150块钱的钱。So I think can you feel more and more for the entry? It's just like a language, OK? When it's talking this way, then you should know the what it means, OK? So it's very easy when you practice, then you should know. Actually, once you are really being familiar with the language, actually it's really no big deal. Because language is just language. You have to know what you are trying to communicate, okay? So once you learn the entry, that's a really basic tool. Then later on, you should know how to make a financial statement. Then later on, you should know how to analyze the financial statements. Okay, so entry is really nothing. Okay, really nothing. Okay, all right, everyone. Give you 1 minute to digest all the solution here. 给你1分钟再看一下哈。We will have another similar ones. Okay. So later on, you have when you can get a similar one right, then I'll give you the extra points. Okay. All right. So we're moving on. So what about dishonor? Which means they will not pay you the money. Actually, is a default check. Okay, we say that dishonor. Dishonor 就是退票，好退票，支票到期没有办法兑现，好就 dishonor. Okay, so here's the thing. Tech company holded 812% 60-day note of grad part at maturity. 这个字要会到哈。You don't need to always say due date. You can say at maturity. 介系词用 at maturity 就是到期的时候呢 ，hot dishonor the note。OK， 所以退票的写法，中文、英文写法可以说 dishonor， 或是另外一个字叫 default 哦 the check 都可以 the note。Both way as the way to say that. Okay. All right. Now here is the one. Even though it's dishonored, but for your account, you're going later on, you have to keep on tracing your customer until he's willing to pay you back. Okay? So when you are contacting him, the money you are trying to get is not only the principal, because he or she was wasting so much time when you are trying to collect the money. So when you are putting this guy back to your account, you are putting not just the principal itself, because they promised to pay the interest, but however they didn't. So the total amount you putting back, let the NR become AR again. Originally is AR become NR. Now they default the check, then you become NR instead of NR, then it should be go to AR again with the customer's name. Okay, here, the separate account. Then the amount should include not just the original money, the principal, but also the interest. Okay, so this is the way you have AR, the total money 816. You also recognize, this is something really important. You also need to recognize the interest revenue. 必须认列利息的收入 Okay, then you write off the NR. Okay, so 这个时候，当他到期不付钱的时候，它又变成了你的应收账款。这时候应收账款是要含本金加利息 ，OK， 然后再去追它。那这个利息收入一样是在贷方 interest revenue， 然后你把应收账款去除掉，从借变成贷。OK, got it? We're moving to a practice. If it can do it right, each one will get 1 point. Okay, easy, I think. Several students, I remember last time you collect like Blue Mall. Remember you collect 3 points at least. Okay, So it will be extra for your chapter 9. We're going to have the exam for chapter 9 next week because we can finish by today. Okay? Alright. Got it? We're moving to the next page. 注意了，这一题要看清楚，我们要到下一题可以做加分了哈，加分。OK。Here is the question. Okay. Also doing the entry. Okay. Now, March 21st, the company accepted 3,180-day 10% note starting from March 21. Okay, from Sama Fernandez in granting, see the word, granting a time extension on her past due accounts receivable. Okay, similar things. Originally, you have AR, now it's overdue, then they give you a check instead, okay? So you have to replace the AR with what? So this is question 1. The full amount is $3,100. I think this is an easy one. Okay? 第一题注意了哦。Then moving to second one, September 17, Hernandez, okay, dishonor, okay, is due date, okay, dishonor her note when it is presented for payment. Okay, now you have to replace the AR with NR, but plus the interest revenue, remember that? Okay, so September 17, they couldn't pay the money, so you have to setting up the new account, 知道吗？现在他到期没有办法付钱，所以原本的应收票据又回到了应收账款，但这一次的应收账款必须还要去包含他的应该收到的当做的利息。那个利息呢，我们就把它当作是利息收入，利息收入。Okay. Then the last one. December 31, after exhausting all legal means of collection. This is something review for the prior AR, the bad debts. Okay. After exhausting all legal means, 意思说耗费了所有的方法 of collection， 他尽了所有的法律的方式去收钱。Paloma Company decide not to take money. Okay, so they write off Hernandez's account against the allowance for doubtful account. Remember from the prior sessions, when you are to get the net realizable value for accounts receivable. You will have AR minus allowance for doubtful account in order to get the NRV for your AR, right? Remember from prior sessions? So when you decide to write off something, remember that if you don't remember, you can go back to the prior PPT. You just get a reverse debit to credit, credit to debit, right? So now it's the same thing. This company decide to write off the whole amount of $3,100. What's the entry you're going to do? 我们在前面讲的应收账款的时候，如果你要去把一家公司的账全部去除掉的话，原本是应收账款减去备抵呆账， 好，那个时候如果你要去把他公司那个账除掉的话，借的 AR 变成贷，然后原本在贷方的背抵贷上变成借，好，换位置就好了，换位置就好了。所以这个就是所谓的 write off，OK write off。那你看这一题要怎么做？对这个3100块钱要怎么处理？Okay? Done? Who needs more time? .好了吗？你们这边可以了吗？有了哈 ，OK。我需要那个 pen， 上次跟借的那个笔了，不然要管理人好借。谁给我一张纸？一张纸。可以借这个吗？ Alright, the number one questions. Okay, so instead of you have to write off AR first, then setting up the new NR. Okay, so debit NR, credit AR, $3,100. Okay, so when they dishonor the full amount you're going to put it back of your company is AR. You should make sure you write it in the name. If you didn't, I will not say you wrong. But be careful, it's very important. So you recognize the total interest revenue. How did you get number? 3,000 times 10% times the fraction of the year, 180 days. So total is 155 for interest revenue. Then you write off NR for this company, this guy. Okay, so debit AR 3255, credit interest revenue 155, and the credit NR $3,100. Okay, then the third one, I give you the hint. Okay, when you need to write off, then you have to do something both on AR and also the allowance for doubtful account. So original AR is debit, you go to credit. Original normal balance for allowance for the DA is credit, then you go to debit. So you switch position, Okay. Number one, who got it right? Isn't that better put it still using the pictures easier? Then we'll do the calculation later. Okay, number one, raise your hand if you are right. Okay, number two, raise your hand if you are right. Okay, number three, if you're still right. Okay, only 3 students. Okay, good. Nice try. Alright, so moving on. This is something honor or dishonor, but the thing is, it will not always happen during the year or during the period, okay? So it will always happen at the end of the period, okay? So we need to always do some adjustment at the end. I think it's similar idea we just mentioned, okay? So this one is really nothing. Alright, so in this example, December 16th, Catcom accept 3,060 days, 12% note from a customer in granting an extension on a past due account. Same thing. replace AR with NR, okay? But the thing is, it's only asking you on December 31, 15 is already calculated for you of interest as accrued. Please make sure you are very familiar with the word accrued, okay? Accrued can be a receivable, anything receivable. Accrued can be anything payable, okay? They all were generally saying that accrued, okay? So here definitely is interest receivable, interest receivable. So based on the calculation for $3,000, the total is getting $15, okay? So you have interest receivable, debit, and you have interest revenue, credit, okay? Still same thing, since it's an adjusting entry, interest receivable goes to balance sheet, and the interest revenue go to income statement. Okay, this one, very easy one. But go to the next year, when the totally 60 days coming up, the day should be on February 14. So when it's due date, you receive the total cash, not just the principal, but the total interest revenue. But for the second period, okay, the revenue is recognized for $55, then you need to write off the receivable from debit to credit, and plus the principal from debit to credit. So I think we have these similar cases so many times, okay? So you should know how to deal with that. Okay, now we're going to in-class quiz. So please log into Trump class. It's good for me to still okay to go to the Trump. After that, we can have a break. I should not count this session for in-class quiz because we have so many students who didn't do the questions. Comes faster. So we are in 9-3. Let me close this one first. Okay. Can you see the question now? When you finish, you can have a break. Formula for computing interest on a note is a principal of the note times the annual interest rate times the time expressed in fraction of year. True. Okay. Number 4, company borrows $1,000 by signing 6 months promissory note at 5% interest. The total amount is 25 days. I think it's right because 6 months is 1/2. Okay, so 2.5 should be 25. Okay. Last one, the person that borrows money and signs a promissory note is called a payee. No, it should be payer. Okay, so it's both. I think this is very easy one. So we go to another. Okay, we're almost the end of the chapter, and this one actually is really important. We say that disposal. Disposal means you want to sell or you want to do something on whatever the AR or NR. It happens, just happens. Yesterday, even Sunday, I had a class on EMBA. You know, all the students are coming from the different industry company who is the management level. 昨天的高阶 EMBA 嘛 and this is the final day for them to do some report. And I remember one of the owner of the box, and he said he described how he started his company, and when he needs money, how difficult for him to get money from the bank. Okay, later on, so the first couple years, then he couldn't get any penny from the bank because they are saying that I don't see you have good sales enough in order for me to borrow you some money. So that's why at the moment he has to borrow money from all the friends, relatives, then to keep on certain years, okay? Later on, after 5 or 10, close to 10 years, a very difficult time, he got a really stable and big order, you know, the order from a listing company, okay? So starting from then, he then has some money. But the thing is, looks like it's a good news because it's a really big order, okay? However, that listing company will pay them every time in order to receive money. The notes will keep on 6 months. You know, it's a long time to receive the money. However, in order to keep up, you know, the manufacturing old items, he needs more good equipment, but he didn't get money. So what should he do? Then I told him, why didn't you pledge your accounts receivable? That's what we're learning now, okay? He said, yes, I did, but originally he only can pledge, you know, using her accounts receivable to go to the bank. See, I have such a good customer without any, you don't have any question they will not pay the money, but it keeps that long. So how much money you can borrow based on my, you know, security? Then originally the bank only borrowed 60% of the accounts receivable money to them, but still enough for them to purchase some, you know, the equipment. Then they can start manufacturing more things. So for running a company, then looks like, you know, the cash flow is so important. You don't have the cash flow enough, then there's no way even you have very many good orders. So here we're saying that when you have notes receivable, you have accounts receivable, what should you do? Okay, that's the questions. Okay, Bruno, show you the QR for. Yeah. So this chapter is really important in practice. Okay, when you dispose, maybe you can sell, maybe you use whatever you have to become a pledgant. Okay, just borrow the money, not selling all the item you have on hand. Okay, so company can convert receivable to cash before, not necessarily to wait for the last day. For example, I just received the AR for, 6 months, but after 1 month, I really need the money, so I go to bank. Even though they're still having 5 months to go, you can still do that, okay? You have two ways. One is selling whatever you have. However, this is very costly, okay? Because when you sell to them, what about money when they do cannot get money? So that's why the bank, the borrower normally will charge you pretty much money. Okay, then you will lose a lot. But depends on you think it's worth it or not. Okay, if the case is you need the money so bad, okay, then that's the way. Another way, you borrow money, you seek using them as a security for a loan. You get money from the bank. This is two way. So normally, a recent survey showing that about 20% company obtain cash from either selling receivable or pledging. Yeah, I just heard the real case yesterday. Okay, that's how they collect money in order to buy a very good equipment machine to manufacture. Then we'll see the most one we're using the second one, borrow money, not the selling. It doesn't mean that selling is not good. The best thing, selling is easy and quick, but the problem is will normally take more, the bank will charge more fees, okay? And that's the thing. And normally, bank is not willing to take when they sell them because the risk will be shifting to bank. And if you are the bank, the people, are you willing to take the risk? No, right? So that's why normally the second way is the frequencies method to use. Okay, let's see how it's going to sell. Okay, a company can sell or depends on how much money they need. So or portion of its receivable to a finance company normally is from the bank. Okay, the buyer, the bank will charge we call that factoring fee. This is new term. Factoring fee, or you will see just fee or processing fee. But for this, for financial area, they call it factoring fee. Okay, to take the ownership. They own the accounts receivable, which means when it's due, the buyer will pay the money to the bank instead of the seller. Okay, but here we have the term without recourse. Without recourse means trace back. Means if there are two kinds. One type is without recourse. Another type is with recourse. What's the difference? Difference is who is going to take the risk when the AR is default. When you are saying without recourse means the due date, or however the buyer couldn't pay. If it's without recourse, the bank will take the risk, then we're losing the money. If the term is with recourse, then the bank will go back, even though it's sold to them. The bank can still go back based on the contract, back to the company who is, we call it factoring the AR to them, and say, hey, your customer didn't pay, you still need to pay me back. Okay, so there's two ways based on the contract when they are selling the AR to the bank. If you are the bank, of course, you will take what? With recourse. So it's really see that the contract will be without recourse, which means whatever happens, the bank will take it. Okay, so of receivable and receive cash when they do. Then the seller can receive cash earlier, depends on how early they want. Okay, and pass the risk of the back end to the factor, which is bank. Okay, so the bank is not stupid. So normally you will not see the term without recourse. It should be with recourse. Okay, we'll go back. But anyway, it's just a concept to you. The detail when it happens, you should deal with the bank. But at least you can tell your company say, hey, we need money, but no one wants to borrow me, and probably we can, selling the receivable to the bank. That's the way you can finance the money, okay? All right, so if that's the way you will write off your AR from debit to credit, okay, the total amount is $20,000. Then net of the fee expense, $800 they charge for 4%. Actually, it's really kind. Okay, actually, in real case, should be very high. So that's why people, unless they need the money so bad, okay, otherwise they will not doing this because the factor normally will charge pretty much money for the fee. Okay, so net of the $800, the total cash received is $19,200. Okay, in the case, no matter what happened, okay, then the bank will take it. Okay, and this is the things. All right. So the second one, you should pay more attention. That is more frequent happens. Okay. So what is a pledging? Okay, you collateral your account receivable as a security. 我们通常会把应收账款当成一个抵押品给银行，好，然后银行愿意来借你钱，好。So this is something for borrowing money from the bank, okay? Using your accounts receivable as a pledge, okay? 就是抵押、质押。So a company can raise cash by borrowing money and then pledging its receivable as security. A security means if what is borrow? Borrow means you write a note to the bank, and the bank give you the money. So if the check default, okay, then at least the bank can go to the AR people to receive the money. Okay, so that's what we say security. 好，既然是抵押品，就是如果你开给银行的那个支票跳票的话，银行可以去向你的应收账款人去要钱。Okay, so that's why receivable is a security for the loan. So pledging receivable does not. This is really important. When you pledge receivables, does not transfer the risk of bad debt to the lender. Okay, then if the really lousy thing happen, okay, you borrow money from the bank, so you write a check to them. When the check is due, well, if something wrong, the bank, the company cannot pay the whole check money, okay, but return the money back. So in that case, the bank go to your accounts receivable, the seller, the buyer, again, the AR, the buyer default again, okay. In that case, who is going to be responsible? Answer me. Let me say the story again. A company go to the bank, borrow the money. A go to the bank, so get money here. But in order to get money, he write him a note. So with the notes. So the bank give the money to A. Okay? So when the notes default, which means they cannot pay the full money. Okay? Then when they are doing this, they're using the pledge security is their AR. For example, $10,000. Okay, then actually the AR is $15,000 because bank will not fully using the whole security value to give the borrowed money to A, the customer. Only like 80%. Okay, normally 80%. But in this case, the bank decide to, based on the security value, only borrow $10,000. So what about if it's default? Normally that's okay, safe for bank because they can still get $10,000 from the AR, the buyer. Okay, take the money from here partially. But what about the buyer also make a bad debt, default again? So the bank cannot get the money from the buyer again. So in this case, bank can never lose the money. Who is he going to get money from? A. Right, still A. A is still the one, even though it's using this one as the security, but they still being responsible here. Okay, so that's the story, alright? So that's the things here. The risk of the AR still staying with A. Okay. So pledging receivables does not transfer the risk of the bad debt to the lender. So that's what I mean, okay? Because the borrower retains the ownership of the receivables. Okay, so AR still be owned by A. Okay, that's receive ownership. So if the borrower defaults on the loan, the lender has the right to be paid from the cash receivable when collected. Okay, that's how it's really frequent happen in the real world. Okay, when people need some money, they can, but not bank will always do that based on the quality of the receivable. Like the example I just mentioned that happened from one of students from yesterday EMB class, okay? Because the AR he received is, even though they paid every time, they have to wait 6 months in order to receive the money, okay? And actually, that one is the number one doing the what kind of company? 机械 mechanism? Something, machine is something like that. The number one company. So they are the supplier for that company, of course. The bank will trust them very much. Okay, so this is the way. So for accounting side, what did you do? Okay, so for example, the important things, if this happen, means you borrow money from the bank, okay, then you have to disclose the information on your disclosure. Okay, that's very important. This is required by the government. Okay, so here's the case. Actually, there's a AR $40,000. So normally, 80% is pretty much money the bank will borrow. But in this case, the bank borrowed TechCom for $35,000. So instead of receiving the cash, he created a new debt here. It's notes payable, NP. So this is one very important. Actually, the topic is about AR, but here you use the AR to borrow money from the bank. So you need to write the NP, notes payable, write promissory note in order to get cash. Okay? So you have cash that will make you happy, you can do something, purchase some equipment, but at the same time it's a debt, okay, to a loan from the bank. But for this information, you need to, okay, disclose the facts of pledging on the statement, saying that you have a AR 40,000 are pledged as a security for this debt. Okay, so this is very important information for whoever the information user, they need to know the information. So this is something you should know. So we have a practice again. I think we're almost the end. That on June 30, Roman company has 125,900 of AR. We need to do the entries to record something here, and also you need to prepare any footnote if there's any. Okay. So first one, July 4th sold 6295 merchandise that had cost $4,000 to customer on credit. So we have several keywords on credit, which means you have AR and sales for the amount. But since it's a perpetual inventory system, normally, okay, so you also need to record what? The cost, which means cost of goods sold debit, and credit what? Credit what? Inventory. inventory. When you sell something, you move the thing from your inventory warehouse. So your inventory will be reduced, that's why you have a credit inventory. But when you are selling something, you have sales, of course you need to report the related costs. We call that cost of goods sold, okay? So this is number one, see the answer here. So you have the one AR and the credit sales, then you also have the CGS, and you also have credit inventory here. Okay, the second one, sold 18,000 accounts receivable to a bank. They charge you 4% factoring fee. So now everybody should know the term, factoring fee. What does that mean? It's a fee they charge for borrowing, selling money. And who's the factor? Factor is the bank. It's the bank, okay? So here, then you have to receive the cash net of the factoring fee, so which is 17280. You have factoring fee expense, then you write off, since it's sold, okay, so you write off from a debit to credit AR, okay. So this is okay, you familiar with the fees, then it's okay. Then the third one, receive 3436 cash from customer in payment of their account. And this one's very easy. You get cash, you write off the balance of AR 3436. I don't think it should be a question for 17 date. Last one. Okay. Last one. Borrowing 10,000 cash from the central bank, pledging 13,000 AR as a security. So this one you should be very careful. The real cash is from here. The relationship between you and the bank is only 10%, $1,000. But the thing is, it is required since you have pledging something as security. So you need to disclose the information for $13,000. It doesn't mean you receive $13,000. You use the amount. So in case the check right from the borrower, the borrower, the lender can get 10,000 from the AR cost, the buyer. Okay, so this is the thing. So in that case, we have cash, debit, credit, MP, and also some notes for this information. Okay, so this is to be easy one. So we're at the end, okay? And close it earlier. So always the last one is the financial index, financial ratio, okay? So this is something accounts receivable turnover. So which means you have credit sales, then how frequent you can receive the money back. So the formula is you have net sales divided by average accounts receivable. Whenever you see average, it's always what? The beginning plus the ending and divided by 2. That's the definition for average. But something don't get confused, because the one of the based on the word, you should know the faster the better. Okay. It's different from chapter 8 we've learned. We are in chapter 9. In chapter 8, the last one is asking for how many days sales uncollected, which means you made the sales but you didn't collect the money. So it's just reverse. Accounts receivable divided by net sales times days. So don't get confused with this one, these two, okay? This one, the shorter, the better. This one, larger, the better. Okay? So, which means you can turn over means the faster and faster and faster. But the day, since it's uncollected, of course, the shorter, the better. Okay? So this is two ratios you should analyze the company. Okay? The quality of their credit sales. The quality of their credit sales, okay? So we are at the end, okay? That's all for today, and tomorrow, I think Yuqi will do some exercise for you. And for next week, I'm going to, remember I give you the test bank for the, I think till chapter 9 or chapter 10. Anyway, okay, based on that test bank, I will move out some questions for your next exam. Okay, and what else? Some question might coming from the textbook. Okay, anyway, she's still the same. About 20 multiple, 20 true and false, and some false question coming from the sheet. Okay, still the same. So I think at the end, because we have students waiting to the class online, so we need to close the video as soon as possible and upload to the cloud. Okay, so